Bella's hands didn't shake as she pressed send on the email that would destroy half of Seoul's corporate elite. 20 gigabytes of evidence, 15 years of corruption, 173 executives about to lose everything. The restaurant around her continued its elegant dance, crystal clinking, laughter floating. None of them knowing the waiter refilling their wine had just detonated a bomb that would reshape the city's power structure. Yoon Jaeheon sat at table 7, his eyes locked on hers across the room. He knew what she'd done, and in exactly 4 minutes so would everyone else. But that moment was still 3 months away. The night everything began, Bella was simply trying to survive her shift without dropping anything. Mirai Restaurant existed in that rarefied altitude where oxygen thinned and prices required multiple commas. Bella moved through its hushed elegance like a ghost, present, essential, invisible. Exactly how she preferred it. Being invisible meant people forgot to guard their conversations, forgot that waiters had ears, forgot that the African woman serving their $1,200 wagyu might understand every word of their Korean, their Mandarin, their English confessions of crimes dressed in business language. She'd been documenting them for 6 months, photographing documents left carelessly on tables, recording conversations through the pen camera disguised in her uniform pocket, building a case that would make her last exposé look quaint. That's when Yoon Jaeheon first sat in her section. She recognized him immediately, everyone in Seoul would. Heir to Yoon Industries, one of the country's largest conglomerates. The business magazines called him brilliant. The gossip sites called him untouchable. The servers at Mirai whispered that he'd made 3 women quit in tears after they'd fumbled his orders. Bella approached his table with practiced calm. "Good evening. May I start you with something to drink?" He didn't look up from his phone. "Whiskey the Macallan 25. Of course, any preference on..." "If I'd had a preference, I would have stated it." His eyes finally lifted and she felt the impact like a physical force. Dark assessing, used to immediate compliance. "You're new. 6 months. That's not new. Why haven't I seen you before?" "Perhaps you weren't looking." She kept her voice professionally pleasant, her expression neutral. Something flickered in his gaze. Surprise, maybe, or irritation that she hadn't stammered or flushed. "What's your name?" "Bella." "Bella," he tested the word. "You're not Korean. Observant." She immediately regretted the dry response, but his lips curved slightly. "Careful. Sarcasm doesn't usually survive in places like this. Neither does honesty, but we adapt." Now he fully smiled, and she understood why he was dangerous. That smile transformed him from intimidating to devastating. "Bring the whiskey, and Bella, I'll be watching to see if you're as competent as you are bold." She returned with his drink, poured it with steady hands despite feeling his attention tracking her every movement. The night proceeded normally. He ate, she served, he left a tip that would have fed her for a week. She discreetly returned it to the hostess stand. Money was how men like him controlled people. She wouldn't give him that leverage. The next week he requested her section specifically. "You returned my tip," he said without preamble. It was excessive. It was generous. It was strategic, she met his eyes. "I'm not for sale, Mr. Yoon. I wasn't trying to buy you. I was rewarding exceptional service. Then reward me by not making my job more difficult than it needs to be." She walked away before he could respond, heart hammering. "You didn't challenge men like Yoon Jaeheon. You smiled, you deferred, you survived." But something about his presumption ignited her temper. The same temper that got her partner killed 2 years ago in Lagos when they'd pushed too hard against people who pushed back with bullets. Jaehyun became a regular fixture, always her section. Always testing her with impossible requests, subtle intimidation tactics, the full weight of his presence. Other servers envied her access to such a generous tipper. They didn't understand she was fighting a war of wills across linen tablecloths. "Why do you do this?" she finally asked one evening. Exhausted from his games. "Do what? Test people? See where they'll bend." His expression shuddered. "Because everyone bends eventually. I'm just efficient about finding the angle." "Not everyone. Everyone." His certainty was absolute. "People are predictable. They want money, status, security. Find the want, apply pressure, achieve compliance. That's a bleak worldview. It's a realistic one." She refilled his wine, careful not to let their fingers touch. "Then I feel sorry for you, Mr. Yoon. Living in a world where everyone's for sale must be incredibly lonely." She left him sitting there, something like shock written across his features. The game changed after that. He stopped trying to buy or intimidate her. Instead, he started asking questions. Where was she from? How long in Seoul? What did she think of Korean business culture? She deflected most answers, gave him nothing real, but the questions themselves felt different. Less like interrogation, more like genuine curiosity. You're careful, he observed one evening. You share nothing personal, no vulnerability. It's smart. It's survival. Who taught you that? She thought of Marcus bleeding out in a Lagos parking garage while she screamed for help that came too late. Experience. 3 months into their strange détente, Bella stayed late after the restaurant closed. The executive from table 12 had left his portfolio behind. Insurance fraud documentation disguised as legitimate claims processing. She photographed every page with practiced efficiency, her hands steady despite the risk. Interesting reading material, she spun. Jaeheon stood in the doorway, perfectly still, perfectly dangerous. Her mind raced through options. Denial, distraction, flight. She chose truth. What does it look like I'm doing? It looks like corporate espionage, industrial theft, crimes that carry serious prison time. Or it looks like documentation, evidence gathering. Justice for people who can't afford lawyers to fight men like you. He moved closer and she forced herself not to retreat. Men like me? Men who own everything and everyone. Who think money absolves morality. Who crush anyone threatening their empires. You think that's who I am? I think that's who you have to be to survive in your world. Something raw flickered across his face before the mask returned. He pulled out his phone. 1 call and security will be here in 90 seconds. Give me one reason I shouldn't make it. Her heart thundered, but her voice stayed level. Because you've been watching me for 3 months and you haven't made that call yet. You want to know what I've found. Silence stretched between them, taut as wire. Show me, he finally said. She shouldn't trust him. Every instinct screamed danger. But she pulled out her tablet, showed him surface-level evidence enough to prove her credibility, not enough to compromise her investigation. His face paled as he scrolled through documentation. Insurance fraud, money laundering, bribery networks, all involving people he knew, people he did business with. Chairman Park, he whispered, staring at one particular document. He mentored me. My father trusted him with everything. Your father's car accident 15 years ago wasn't an accident. Jaehyun's head snapped up. What? I have preliminary evidence suggesting brake line tampering. Your father was preparing to expose corruption in the textile merger. Chairman Park couldn't allow it. She watched him process this, saw the moment belief crystallized into fury. You're certain? 80%. I need more to prove it definitively. He set down the tablet with careful control. What else have you found about me? Surprisingly little. Your company's cleaner than most. Either you're legitimately ethical or exceptionally good at hiding crimes. Which do you believe? She studied him, the tension in his shoulders, the genuine shock at betrayal by his mentor. I think you're complicated, but I don't think you're corrupt. Not yet. Not yet, he repeated softly. You think power inevitably corrupts? I think it makes corruption easier. Consequences disappear when you're rich enough. Then help me prove you wrong. His intensity pinned her in place. You want to expose these people? I can give you access they'd never give a waiter. Meeting rooms, private conversations, documents you'd never reach, but I need your investigation, your evidence. Together, we might actually accomplish what you're trying to do alone. Why would you help me destroy your world? Because it's not my world if it's built on my father's murder. His jaw tightened. And because you're right, I've been watching you. You're fearless, methodical, and you care about justice more than safety. That's rare. Maybe we're both rare enough to make this work. She wanted to refuse. Partnerships meant vulnerability. Marcus had been her partner once, look how that ended. But alone, she'd been treading water. With Jaehyun's access, she could actually win. Fine, she said. But if you betray me, the evidence I have on you, minimal as it is, goes public first. She didn't mention she had no evidence on him. Yet his smile was sharp. Mutually assured destruction. I can work with that. They began meeting in secret. Late nights in his private office, high above Seoul's glittering expanse. She taught him how to recognize criminal patterns disguised as business. He gave her access to closed-door meetings, executive communications, the inner machinery of corporate power. This is insane, she said one night, surrounded by printouts covering his desk. Half the companies in this district are involved. This isn't isolated corruption, it's systemic. Welcome to Korean business. His tie was loosened, hair falling across his forehead. 3 a.m. had stripped away his polished veneer. This is what I inherited. What I'm supposed to perpetuate. But you're not. No. He met her eyes. I'm not. The moment held weight she wasn't ready to examine. She broke eye contact first, focusing on documents. We need evidence from Chairman Park's private server. That's where the real proof is. That's suicide. His security is sophisticated. I know, but his secretary has gambling debts. Jaehyun's eyebrows rose. You've already approached her? Last week she's considering it. You're terrifying, you know that. You're the fourth person to tell me that. Marcus had been the first. Right before he'd kissed her for the first time. Right before everything fell apart. Who were the other three? People who didn't survive asking questions. The mood shifted, darkened. Jaehyun leaned forward. Bella, who did you lose? She shouldn't answer. Shouldn't give him ammunition. But exhaustion and late hours and his unexpected gentleness cracked her defenses. His name was Marcus, my partner. We were investigating corruption in Nigeria's oil sector. Someone decided we knew too much. I'm sorry. Simple words, but his tone carried genuine empathy. That kind of loss, and it changes everything. It teaches you trust is expensive. She gathered papers, needing movement, needing distance. We should call it a night. But as she reached for her bag, his hand caught her wrist, gentle, questioning. Bella. She should pull away. Should maintain professional boundaries. Instead, she found herself frozen, feeling the warmth of his skin against hers, the way her pulse jumped at the contact. This is complicated enough, she whispered. I know, but he didn't let go. But pretending there's nothing here doesn't make it disappear. She finally looked at him. His eyes held heat and questions and the same conflict she felt. What do you want from me, Jaehyun? Honestly? Everything, your trust. Your partnership, you. His thumb brushed the inside of her wrist. But I'll settle for you not running away right now. I don't run. No, you fight. I've noticed. His other hand came up, fingers tracing her jaw with devastating gentleness. I've noticed everything about you. The way you command a room without raising your voice. How you never flinch when men try to intimidate you. That you take your coffee black at 3 a.m. and fall asleep reading evidence reports. The way your dark skin glows under this office light. You're remarkable, Bella. And I'm trying very hard to be professional about it. How's that working? Terribly. His smile was rueful. Tell me to stop and I will. Tell me this crosses too many lines and we'll go back to just business. She should. Marcus had been dead 2 years, but the guilt still lived. The terror of caring about someone in a dangerous world still paralyzed her. But Jaehyun was looking at her like she mattered. Not as a tool, not as a conquest, but as someone worth risking things for. I'm not good at this, she admitted. After Marcus, I swore I wouldn't. I'm not asking you to be good at it. I'm asking if you feel it too. Did she? The question was rhetorical. She'd felt it for weeks. The way her breath caught when he entered a room. How conversations with him felt like sparring and dancing simultaneously. The unexpected safety she felt in his presence despite every logical reason not to. Yes, she whispered, I feel it. He kissed her then, slowly, deliberately, giving her every chance to retreat. She didn't. Instead, she leaned into him, her hands gripping his shirt, his arms wrapping around her waist, and for a moment the investigation, the danger, the past, all of it disappeared. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, reality crashed back. This is incredibly stupid, she said. Agreed. He rested his forehead against hers. We're investigating people who kill to protect secrets. Getting emotionally involved is a liability. We should stop. Definitely. But neither moved. His hands traced patterns on her lower back. Her fingers had somehow tangled in his hair. Tomorrow, she murmured. We'll be smart tomorrow. Tomorrow, he agreed and kissed her again. They barely made it to his private apartment, the penthouse suite connected to his office building. Clothes shed like armor, revealing vulnerability beneath. His hands trembled slightly as he unzipped her dress, and she realized he was as terrified as she was. Not of the physical, but of what it meant. The giving of trust, the choice to be seen. We can stop, he said, even as his mouth traced her collarbone. If this is too much... She silenced him with a kiss, then pulled back just enough to meet his eyes. I don't want to stop. I want to feel something other than fear and anger and loss. Just for tonight, can we do that? Yes. He lifted her effortlessly, and she wrapped her legs around his waist, feeling the heat of his skin through thin fabric. God, yes. The bedroom was dark except for city lights bleeding through floor-to-ceiling windows. He laid her on sheets that probably cost more than her monthly rent, but all she noticed was the way he looked at her, like she was precious, like she was chosen. "You're beautiful," he whispered, tracing the curve of her hip. "You're not looking at me objectively." "No, I'm looking at you honestly." His mouth followed the path his hands had mapped, and she gasped at the sensation. Every scar, every guard you've built, every fierce, terrifying piece of you, the way your dark skin catches the light, it's like the city itself is holding its breath. Beautiful. She pulled him up to kiss him properly, pouring everything she couldn't say into the contact. "Thank you, I'm scared." "Don't leave, don't die. Don't be another person I lose." He seemed to understand the unspoken words. His touch gentled, slowed, became less about passion and more about presence. "I'm here," he murmured against her throat. "Right here with you." When they finally came together, it felt like falling and flying simultaneously. She clung to him. He held her like she was breakable, and they moved together with desperate tenderness. This wasn't just physical release. It was two damaged people choosing vulnerability, choosing connection, choosing to believe trust might be possible. After, tangled together in the wreckage of expensive sheets, she traced the scar on his shoulder. "Car accident? Knife fight, actually. College. Long story." "You were in a knife fight?" "Everyone thinks rich kids are soft." His fingers drew lazy circles on her back. "We're just soft in different ways." She laughed, surprising herself. When was the last time she'd laughed after sex? With Marcus, maybe, before everything went wrong. "I can feel you thinking," Jaeheon said softly. "Where did you go?" "Nowhere good." "Then come back." He tilted her face up, serious now. "I know you've lost people. I know trusting me is a risk. But Bella, I haven't let anyone see the real me in years. Just the empire, the image, the heir who knows all the right moves. You see past that, and it's terrifying and addicting, and I don't want to lose it." "I see you," she whispered, and meant it. They fell asleep as dawn crept over Seoul. Two people who'd found something rare in a world that tried to kill soft things. Bella woke to sunlight and an empty bed. Panic seized her before she saw the note. "Emergency meeting. Stay here, trust me." Of course, she was reading it for the third time when her phone buzzed. News alert. Whistleblower found dead in Han River. Suspected suicide. Her blood turned to ice. She clicked through, dreading what she'd find. The victim was Kim Min-seok, one of her sources inside Chairman Park's company. The man who'd been feeding her documents for 3 months. The man who'd been terrified someone had discovered him. Not suicide, murder. Someone knew about the investigation. She tried calling Jaeheon straight to voicemail. Tried again, nothing. Fear clawed up her throat as she dressed, mind racing. If they knew about Min-seok, did they know about her? About Jaehyun's involvement? She reached his office to find chaos. Security everywhere, police tape, everything ransacked. Her blood turned to ice as a detective approached. "You're Bella Okonkwo?" "Yes." "What happened?" "There was a break-in early this morning. Evidence was stolen and Mr. Yoon," the detective's expression was grim. "We found blood. Quite a lot of blood." The world tilted. "Where is he?" "We don't know. But we found this." He held up a phone, Jaehyon's. It was left deliberately, along with a message. He showed her the screen. Single text. "Trade evidence for his life. Midnight Namsan Tower." Bella's hands clenched into fists. This was her fault. She'd pushed too hard, gotten too close, and now Jaehyon was paying the price. Just like Marcus. "We'll handle the exchange," the detective said. "You should—" "No," her voice cut like glass. "This is my investigation, my evidence. My call. Ms. Okonkwo, these people are dangerous. I know exactly how dangerous they are. Which is why I'm the only one who can do this." She left before he could argue. Mind already working through scenarios. Chairman Park had Jaehyon. That much was obvious. The question was whether he'd actually let him live if she surrendered the evidence. The answer was no. Men like Park didn't leave witnesses, which meant she needed a different plan. Back at her apartment, Bella Okonkwo stared at her laptop. Years of evidence. Documentation that could dismantle Korea's corporate corruption networks. The work that had cost Marcus his life. The work that might cost Jaehyon his. She thought about Marcus bleeding out while she'd been powerless to save him. Thought about the promise she'd made over his body, that his death would mean something, that she'd expose every corrupt system, burn it all down, no matter the cost. But Jaeheon wasn't just the mission anymore. She made copies of everything, uploaded them to secure servers with dead man switches. Then she deleted the originals from the shared system she'd been using with Jaeheon. If this was a trap, they'd get nothing. Namsan Tower loomed against Seoul's night sky, iconic and ominous. Bella arrived early, scouting exits and security cameras. Her reflection in the glass doors, dark skin, tight braids pulled back, eyes sharp with resolve, looked like someone who'd fought too long to lose now. This was a public place, crowded, visible. Either Park was supremely confident or supremely stupid. She bet on confident. At midnight precisely, a black car pulled up. The door opened. Chairman Park emerged, followed by guards, followed by Jaeheon. He was bruised but walking, hands zip-tied behind his back. Their eyes met across the plaza, and she saw fury and fear and something that looked like pride. Ms. Okonkwo. Park's smile was serpentine. Punctual, I appreciate that. Let him go, and I'll give you what you want. Show me the evidence first. She held up the flash drive. Everything's here, years of documentation. All of it. Park gestured to a guard who took the drive and plugged it into a laptop. Tense moments passed as he verified contents. Empty, the guard finally said. It's been wiped. Park's expression darkened. You think I'm a fool? I think you're a murderer. Bella's voice was steel. And I think you're predictable. That's when Jaeheon moved. He slammed his head backward into the guard behind him, simultaneously dropping and rolling. The zip ties, already partially cut, snapped free. In one fluid motion, he disarmed the stunned guard and had a gun trained on Park. You were never captured, Bella realized, pieces clicking into place. This was the plan. Not my first undercover operation. Jaehyun's voice was cold, controlled. Korean intelligence before I took over the company. Surprise. Park's face contorted with rage and fear. You traitor? No, I'm what you made me. Jaehyun's hand was steady. You killed my father when he tried to expose you 15 years ago. Made it look like an accident. The car crash that gave me this empire. You orchestrated it. Bella's mind reeled. You've known this whole time? For 10 years. I've spent a decade infiltrating your network, gathering evidence, waiting for the right moment. And then he glanced at Bella, showed up, an outside investigator they couldn't control. The perfect catalyst. You used me. Betrayal tasted like acid. At first, he admitted, still watching Park. When I realized you were investigating my circles, I needed to control the narrative. But Bella, his voice softened, everything between us was real. The mission was 10 years. You were 3 months, but you became everything. Park lunged for Bella, knife flashing from his sleeve. She reacted on instinct, but Jaeheon was faster. The gun fired once, deafening in the open air. Park fell, clutching his shoulder. Wounded, not dead. Sirens wailed as police vehicles screamed into the plaza. Simultaneous raids, Bella realized. This wasn't just about Park. It was coordinated, massive. You planned this entire thing, she said as officers swarmed the area. With your evidence as the foundation, Jaeheon replied, lowering his weapon as police took over. Your investigation gave me what I needed to finally take them down. All of them. Bella stood apart, processing layers of manipulation. Her dark brown skin gleamed faintly under the flashing blue lights. Sweat and anger catching the glow as she struggled to breathe. How do I know what's real anymore? He approached slowly, hands visible, non-threatening. You don't. You have to choose to trust me, like I chose to trust you with the truth. Park, being cuffed, laughed bitterly. Touching, she'll never believe you. You're just like us, using people, discarding them when convenient. Bella looked between them. The corrupt man who represented everything she fought and the complicated man who might be her future, or just another beautiful lie. He's wrong, Jaeheon said quietly. I'm nothing like him. But you need to decide that yourself. Police needed statements, detectives had questions. The chaos of arrests swirled around them, but Bella barely registered it. She felt hollowed out, exhausted, unsure what was real anymore. She left without another word. 3 weeks passed in a blur. Seoul's corporate world imploded as trials began. Chairman Park's network unraveled. Dozens of arrests, empires crumbling, systemic reform finally beginning. Bella's evidence, combined with Jaehyun's decade of intelligence work, proved devastating. The media called it the largest corruption bust in Korean history. Bella watched it unfold from her apartment numb. She'd accomplished what she and Marcus had started. Justice, finally, but it felt hollow. Her phone rang constantly. Journalists, prosecutors, job offers from international papers. She ignored them all. One evening, exhausted from testimony preparations, she returned to her apartment to find the door unlocked. Heart racing, she entered cautiously. Jaehyun stood by the window, looking out at Seoul's lights. "You're a difficult man to trust," she said without preamble. "I know, I'm sorry. I should have told you everything from the start." "Yes, you should have." She stayed near the door, maintaining distance. The city lights reflected softly on her deep brown skin, catching the quiet strength in her expression. "But I understand why you didn't. Trust is earned slowly, lost instantly, rebuilt impossibly. So why are you here?" "Because I did something I swore I'd never do after Marcus died. I investigated you. Really investigated. 10 years of your life. Every decision. Every sacrifice you made to position yourself for this takedown." She finally moved closer. "You gave up relationships, reputation, normalcy. Became what you hated to destroy it from within. That's not using people. That's devotion to justice that cost you everything." "Not everything," his voice was rough. "I found you. You found a waiter with a camera. I found a woman who reminded me why I started this. Who showed me integrity isn't about being perfect. It's about choosing right when wrong is easier." She touched the healing bruise on his jaw from their confrontation at the tower. Her dark fingers brushed gently against his skin, grounding him. "I'm still angry you didn't trust me with the full truth. I know you have every right. But I also understand you'd spent a decade trusting no one. That kind of isolation becomes armor." Her hand slid to his chest, feeling his heartbeat. "And I'm done being angry. Life's too short. Marcus taught me that. This mission taught me that." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying we finished what we started together. Now I want to start something new. No lies, no missions. Just us figuring out who we are without the war." His arms came around her waist, pulling her close. "I can do that if you can forgive me. I can try." She looked up at him. "But Jaehyun, no more secrets. Even the ones you think protect me. Deal." "And Bella," he smiled. "For the record, I didn't plan to fall for you. That was the most unexpected part of this entire decade. Good, I prefer being unpredictable." He kissed her then, soft and sure and tasting like new beginnings. She kissed him back, and it felt like finally coming home. 6 months later, Bella stood on a stage in Stockholm accepting an award for investigative journalism. Her exposé on Korean corporate corruption had gone international, sparked reforms across Asia, given voice to thousands of victims. The lights of the stage caught her rich brown skin, glowing against the snow-colored backdrop. Cameras flashed, capturing a woman whose presence commanded quiet awe. In the audience, Jaehyun watched with unmistakable pride. After the ceremony, they walked through Stockholm's winter streets, breath misting in cold air. "How does it feel?" he asked. "Accomplishing what you and Marcus started? Like closure?" "Finally." She squeezed his hand. "He'd have liked you, I think. Once he stopped threatening to kill you for manipulating me." "Fair, I deserve that." They'd spent months rebuilding trust. Therapy, honesty, learning each other without the adrenaline. It had been messy and hard and worth every difficult conversation. Jaehyun's company was thriving under new ethical leadership. He'd become a voice for corporate reform, using his platform for actual change. Bella continued her investigative work, now with resources and protection she'd never had before. They were still figuring out how to be together, navigating cultural differences, past trauma, the challenge of two strong personalities learning to compromise. But they were figuring it out together. "Have you noticed we're boring now?" she teased as they entered their hotel. No corporate espionage, no life or death stakes. Just normal relationship problems like whose turn it is to do laundry. "I love boring." He pulled her close. "Boring means we survived. Boring means we chose each other without adrenaline making decisions for us. Best choice I ever made." He kissed her temple, then her lips. "Even if you still make me work for your trust, I'll always make you work for it. That's how you know it's real." They made love that night with the lazy confidence of people who'd stopped running. His touch mapped familiar territory now, but no less electric. Her dark brown skin glowed softly in the hotel's golden light as he traced the curve of her shoulder. She knew what made him gasp. He knew how to unravel her defenses, and together they built something that felt permanent. After, Tangled in sheets with Stockholm's lights painting faint reflections across her skin, he traced circles on her shoulder. I have a question. Dangerous opening. Move in with me, officially. Not just staying over sometimes. Actually combine our lives. She propped herself up on an elbow. You want me to move into your penthouse? I want you to make it ours. Bring your terrible coffee maker and your mountains of books and your habit of working at 3 a.m. I want to wake up with you every morning. Not just the nights you decide to stay. Her throat tightened. That's serious. I'm serious about you. Have been since you returned my tip and told me you weren't for sale. His smile was soft. So? Will you? She thought about Marcus, about the promise she'd made to live fully for both of them. Thought about Jaehyun, flawed and complicated and trying so hard to be better than the world that shaped him. Yes, she whispered. But I'm keeping my terrible coffee maker. I wouldn't dare suggest otherwise. They fell asleep planning their future. A novel experience for two people who'd spent years living in survival mode. 3 months later, Bella stood in their apartment, no longer his, truly theirs, watching Seoul wake up. Jaehyun's arms wrapped around her from behind, chin resting on her shoulder, his skin pale against her deep brown glow. Ready for today? He asked. She was testifying at Chairman Park's trial, final testimony that would seal his conviction, the culmination of years of work. Ready, she turned in his arms. And after, I was thinking we could actually take a vacation, somewhere with no corporate corruption to investigate. Those places exist. We'll find one. She kissed him. We're good at the impossible. The testimony went smoothly. Park was convicted on all counts: murder, conspiracy, corruption. Justice finally served. That evening, Bella published her definitive article. The decade-long sting: how one man infiltrated Korea's corruption network. It told Jaehyun's story with his permission, the 10 years spent building trust with criminals, gathering evidence, sacrificing normalcy for the long game. The response was overwhelming. Some called him a hero, others a traitor to his class. Most just read it with fascination at the sheer audacity of the operation. But Bella's favorite response came from Jaehyun himself, reading over her shoulder. You made me sound brave. You are brave, stupid and reckless, but brave. I learned from the best. He pulled her from her desk chair into his lap. Have I mentioned you're brilliant? Not in the last hour. Unacceptable. You're brilliant, fierce, and I'm absurdly lucky you chose to trust me. I'm still deciding if that was smart. Let me know when you reach a conclusion. She kissed him instead of answering. Some questions didn't need words. Their story proved that real change starts with individuals brave enough to challenge systems everyone else accepts. That love isn't about perfection. It's about choosing someone even when it's complicated, messy, dangerous. Bella and Jaehyun didn't just expose corruption. They rebuilt themselves from the wreckage and found something rare. Partnership grounded in shared values, not just passion. They continued fighting for justice, her through journalism, him through corporate reform. Some days were hard, some arguments cut deep, but they'd learned that love worth having required work, honesty, and the willingness to keep choosing each other. And every morning, waking up together in their Seoul apartment, the sunlight catching the warm brown of her skin against his, they made that choice again. If you loved this story, hit that subscribe button. Drop a comment telling me, would you risk everything to expose the truth? And smash that like if you believe real love means seeing someone's flaws and choosing them anyway. Because the best love stories aren't about perfect people. They're about real people making brave choices together. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.